Let's create one of the most exciting designs for iOS apps. This course will unlock the full potential of your design skills. You're going to learn how to design it from scratch using Figma. We will use advanced techniques to make your design very stand out. We're going to follow best practices for dark mode using intriguing vector shapes and effects to create realistic elements and lighting effects. You'll learn to use different gradients to add depth and realism to your designs, to create the buttons, a spotlight effect for the layout, and the thermostat lighting. We're going to explore the ARC tool for creating circular designs like progress bars or pie charts, which are great for visual data. We're going to learn how to use dashed lines in stroke settings to make your designs more precise and detailed. This will help show how the thermostat's temperature can be adjusted. We're going to create a unique and complex vector shape for the thermostat using the Subtract tool. Also, we'll incorporate the pen and bend tools into our design to learn how to add dynamic elements, such as waves for the graph line. Layouts are the foundation of your design, so we will master auto layout to effortlessly organize your interface elements, with options like fill the container, fixed width and height, absolute position, and more. Also, we're going to set rules with constraints for resizing, ensuring your app looks great when scalability. We will also cover color, typography, UI patterns, and a little bit of UX. This video is completely free. Thank you so much to Mobbin for the sponsorship. Mobbin is unique because it is continually updated and offers a huge collection of real designs from popular apps and websites. Unlike other sites that might show designs that are just ideas, Mobbin shows designs that are actually used and liked by people. It's not just about browsing pretty interfaces, but also about understanding the why and how behind each design decision. You can easily search by platform such as iOS, Android, or web, and also by categories like app, screen, UI elements, and flow. Screens are organized into user flows so you can see how the app works without downloading it. These flows are great for anyone designing or improving an app because they show what successful designs look like and teach you about good design, which makes the app more enjoyable and engaging for users. That's why Mobbin is my go-to resource for design inspiration. If you're looking for design inspiration without doing too much UX research, you should take a look at Mobbin and sign up. Plus, I'm excited to share a special offer with you. Get 20% off your first billing cycle of the Pro plan. Just click the link in the description below to claim your discount. By the way, the design we're going to work on was inspired by some ideas I found on Mobbin. I already had the idea to create a smart home app, and I had created this thermostat a few days ago. However, I needed some inspiration for my cards. I explored Mobbin, searched in the iOS category, and looked up card under UI elements. Here are the inspirations that inspired me to create my cards. Before we begin, you will need two resources for this course, my Figma File, an Apple design resource. In my Figma File, you will find my original design and all the UI elements that I will use during the course. We'll use components and materials from Apple design resources that follow Apple's design rules. We'll be using the SF Pro font and icons from Apple's SF Symbols 5. Make sure to download the SF Pro font. Also, you can download the SF Symbols application or use the icons from my Figma File on the Assets page. The first step in the design process is creating wireframes based on these ideas. Wireframes help us plan how the design will look and how to organize the content. They are basic sketches that focus on the structure, layout, and functionality rather than detailed visuals. Open my Figma File and go directly on the wireframe page. We're going to start with the thermostat. If the course goes too fast, you can pause anytime. Use Ellipse or press O on your keyboard to select the Ellipse tool. Create a circle of 230 by 230 and place it in the center of the circle. We're going to create a new shape for the mode setting base. Select both circles and select Subtract. The shape you wish to remove must be above the base shape. Select the new shape and fill with linear gradient, which creates a smooth transition between two or more colors in a straight line. Set the color of the gradient to white for both stops. Adjust the first stop to 0% and the second stop to 100%. Place the first color stop so that it aligns with the edge of the subtracted area. Change the opacity of the fill to 10% to create a subtle effect. Add a stroke and select linear gradient. Similarly, set the gradient's color to white for both stops. Position the first stop at 0% and the second stop at 100%. Set the blend mode to overlay to blend it smoothly with any underlying colors. Then, adjust the opacity of the stroke to 60%. Add background blur and set the blur value to 10. This will create a soft blur effect on any content behind the object. Create a new circle with dimensions of 282. It will serve for the base of the thermostat. I will use a radial gradient to add spotlight effects to the circle. This creates a smooth transition from one color to another in a circular pattern, moving outward from a central point. For the center color, we'll choose light blue and adjust the opacity to 50%. And for the outer color, dark purple, and adjust the opacity to 20%. We're going to position the center color at the top left to create the spotlight effect, and the other color across from it diagonally. Adjust the gradient's orientation by selecting the gradient handle, which affects how the colors transition, not just their blend. Moving the handle closer to the color, stop results in a sharper, more concentrated gradient. Moving it further away makes the transition smoother and more gradual. Then adjust the opacity to 50%. Add a stroke to the circle using a linear gradient. Set the first stop to light blue at the top and the dark color at the bottom with 0% opacity. Then, adjust the stroke opacity to 10%. Add another color to the stroke using a linear gradient again. This time, use white at the top with 100% opacity, fading to 0% opacity at the bottom. We're going to use an overlay blend and position the color diagonally. Then, set the stroke opacity to 100%. We need icons from SF Symbols or use the ones on my page. You'll need the snowflake, thermometer, and flame icons. Simply copy and paste on your canvas. Position the snowflake on the left, the thermometer in the middle, and the flame on the right. Then select all of them and change their size to 20 and color to white. Now let's arrange the icons in reflective symmetry. Now, let's make an indicator for the chosen setting. This design isn't typical in most apps, but it's great for practice. We'll create a polygon with a pointed end to show which setting is selected. When you create a polygon, there's space around it in its frame. This space keeps it from touching the frame's edges. To get rid of this space, we need to flatten the shape. Why? Because I want the size to be specifically 440 by 250. Align the shape in the center. Group the polygon with the subtracted shape. Next, make a copy of the subtracted shape. Place the duplicate under the original and use it as a mask. This ensures the polygon is hidden and doesn't extend beyond the desired shape. Select the polygon and fill it with a radial gradient in white. Position the outer color stop opposite the point. We're going to add 4 color stop and play with the opacity. This creates an upward fading effect. Choose the overlay blend mode. Bring the icons inside the group and name it. Select the unselected icon and lower its opacity to 60%. Now, we're going to create a dashed stroke. Draw a circle with dimensions of 280 and center it. Remove fill and add stroke instead. Set to color white and increase the width to 16. Adjust the opacity to 60%. To create a dash stroke, open Advanced Stroke Settings and select Dash as the style. Set dash to 1, which determines the length of each dash. Then set gap to 0, which is the length of the space between the dashes. This creates a continuous line with minimal space between dashes, resulting in a unique effect. Then select the Overlay Blend mode so the stroke blends with the background. Name the layers and duplicate the dash stroke. We're going to make a slight adjustment. This time, change the gap value to 30. This will increase the space between each dash in the stroke, creating a different visual pattern compared to the original dash. Create another circle of 2 and 30 for the outline. Remove the fill, add a stroke color, and select a linear gradient. Choose light blue, place it diagonally, and adjust the opacity. Set the stroke width to align outside and increase the width to 2. Duplicate the outline circle and change its size to 220. Then change the color to white and apply an overlay blend mode. Set the dash to 30 and the gap to 8. Now let's duplicate the dashed outline, change its size to 210 and rotate it by 10 degrees. I'm going to switch to a linear gradient instead of a solid color, still using white. We'll apply it horizontally with it fading out in the middle where the selection will be. After showing a complex way to make the base with subtraction, I'll now use the ARC tool for a simpler way to make a progress bar. Create a circle with a diameter of 230. Hover over the circle and you'll notice a dot. Click and drag this dot. It adjusts the sweep of the arc. The sweep setting controls the arc's length, letting you decide how much of a circle to draw, from a small segment to nearly a full circle. Then at the center, you'll find another dot controlling the ratio. By dragging the ratio handle at the circle's center, you can transform a circle into a ring. This action allows you to select the visible part and to adjust the ring's thickness. Then, the start setting determines where the arc begins. Initially, the handle is positioned at 0 degrees, but you can drag it around the circle to change the starting point of the arc. Adjust it to 90 degrees. Set the sweep value to 62% and the ratio value to 88%, then round the corners of the progress ring. We're going to fill the progress ring with an angular gradient. This creates a color transition that radiates in a circular pattern around a central point, with the color transition rotating around that point. We're going to position one color stop directly opposite the other using a light blue color. Then, select a different shade of blue and set it to 0% opacity for the other color stop to ensure it blends seamlessly with the background. We'll add another color stop near the middle of the progress bar, using the same shade of blue and set the opacity to 0%. This is to ensure the color fades out in this area. Now, looking back at the first color stop at the top, you might notice the top of the progress bar is subtly faded. If I move the color stop, you'll see it more clearly. I want the end to be a full 100% without shifting this color stop, so I'm going to add another color stop to the circle with the same color. Duplicate the progress ring. Select the one that is under the duplicate and apply a layer blur of 30. Then, adjust the sweep to 55%. The glow effect will start around the middle and extend towards the left. Let's create the front glass of our thermostat. Start by creating a circle with a diameter of 160 and centering it. To speed up the process, I've prepared color styles for you. Select the glass front style, which is a linear gradient of 2 shades of blue. Next, we'll add a light blue stroke using a linear gradient. We'll set it horizontally and fade the color out towards the sides, leaving the middle as it is. We're going to create the final dashed outline around the glass front. Create an ellipse with a diameter of 190 and center it. Remove the fill and add a stroke. Set the stroke width to 10 and align it to the center. Choose a dashed style, setting the dash to 1 and the gap to 2. Fill the shape with a white angular gradient. Add a color stop at the top and 2 more at the bottom with no opacity, lined up with the polygon. This makes the edges near the polygon fade out. We'll blend the stroke using an overlay. Now, we need plus and minus icons. We're done with the thermostat, which was the most complex and time-consuming part of our design. Let's move on to the temperature control located at the bottom of the thermostat with 2 polygons. Place the icons on the polygons and change their color to white. The icons should be centered and spaced 20 units from the flat side the polygon. Fill the polygon with a white linear gradient. Put one end of the gradient at 0% opacity opposite the edge to blend with the background and the other end at 100%. Then set the polygon's opacity to 10% for a subtle effect. Add stroke and apply the same white linear gradient used for the fill of the polygon. Make the stroke's opacity 60% to make it stand out more against the background. Use the overlay blend mode to make sure the stroke blends well with the dark background without any harsh lines. Repeat the same process for the other polygon. I'm going to group the 2 controls and name by temperature control. We're going to add the temperature. Press T and type 20 degrees Celsius using the title Emphasize Style, which is SF Pro in bold, and set the size to 28. Duplicate the text. We're adding additional text for the temperature scale markings. Use the footnote regular style and reduce the text opacity to 60. We're going to add text and place one at the top, left, and right, ensuring proper alignment. We've completed the thermostat, but we're missing the button. Press T on your keyboard and type Thermostat Schedule. Apply the body Emphasize Style. Make sure to select Auto Width, press Shift+A to add auto layout to your text frame. Resize the frame to 390 by 44. Fill it with a linear gradient and place the orientation vertically. Then add 3 color stops. We're going to use 3 shades of blue, from lightest to darkest. Position the last color stop, which is the darkest shade, below your text, aligning it with the text's baseline. Then round the corners to 30. Rename the layer to Button and move the rectangle into the layout. Enable absolute positioning for the rectangle to bypass the auto layout flow, ensuring it doesn't interfere with your design. Center the rectangle within the parent layout to ensure symmetry. We can't see the text. We need to place the rectangle above the text. We're going to create the rectangle into glass to put in front of the layout. Fill the rectangle with white color and blend it subtly with the background using overlay. Then, reduce its opacity to 30%. Let's add a stroke with a linear gradient, changing its orientation to vertical and using white color. Set the stroke's blend mode to overlay. Then, add 2 more color stops and position them along the rectangle's curve. Finally, add a background blur of 20 to the rectangle. This will make it blend more seamlessly with the button's background, giving it a sophisticated, frosted look. We'll continue where we left off and create our navigation bar generally used for navigation. It allows users to move from one view to another or from one state of the application to another. We'll need icons for mode, humidity, fan, and timer. Adjust each icon to be 24 in size for clarity. Then remove the shape behind. Press T and type Mode. Use the callout regular style and make it white. Select the icon, add auto layout, and resize the frame to 44. Select the icon and the text and apply auto layout. Adjust the width of the auto layout frame to 82 to accommodate both the icon and the label. Set 20 in the horizontal and vertical padding. Set 4 in the gap between item. I'll explain auto layout in more detail in the last section. For now, simply follow the steps. Delete the rectangle, apply a background for the layout, container 2, then add stroke using the outline container 2. Set 4 in the gap between item. Copy the layout and paste to replace the others. We're going to create the status dashboard card using icons and different text sizes. We'll also experiment with typeface weights, such as bold and regular. We're going to start with the outdoor temperature card. You'll need the sun snow icon, resize it to 24, then type the temperature using title 2 emphasized, and beneath the temperature, type outdoor using the callout style in regular weight. Select the two text and add auto layout. Then take the new container and the icon and add them to another auto layout. Set 20 on the horizontal and vertical padding. Now, we're going to create a separator using the line tool. Fill it with a white linear gradient. Add 3 stops and reduce the opacity to 0% on each side, maintaining full opacity only in the middle. Then, we're going to blend the separator with the background using overlay. Set the alignment of the layout to the center. Then duplicate the layout and add it to another auto layout. Set the gap between to 0 because we're going to use auto after that. Now select the parent container and change its size to 390. Then select the two child containers and set their resizing to fill container. Name the layer and duplicate it. Then add the two layouts into one using auto layout. Set the gap between them to 0. Select the two separators and set their height to fill container. Fill with the container 2 style and add a stroke using the outline container 2 style. Then round the corners to 20. A separator is missing, so we'll copy it and set the rotation to 0. Then place the separator in the auto layout flow and set it to fill container. We're done with the status dashboard card. Copy it and paste to replace the wireframe. We need navigation for our app. Instead of designing from scratch, take the already filled icons and paste to replace. You will need a chevron to navigate back to the previous page and a gear icon for thermostat settings. For the third page, you'll need a chevron for navigation and a bell for notifications. For the first page, let's use the navigation bar from My Assets page. Now let's go to the Smart Home dashboard. We're going to create the current energy usage card. Start with the title, press T and type current energy usage, and style the text with body emphasized. On the right, add a timestamp to indicate when the energy usage was last updated and style with footnote regular. Now, type a energy value such as 2.1 kW using Title 1, emphasized and use accent color like blue. Below the number, include a brief explanation using body regular style, with color white and reduce opacity to 60%. We need an icon that is already filled. Select the bolt icon and paste it to replace the circle. Type 24 hours usage using the callout regular. Duplicate the text, change to 48 kWh using Title 2 emphasized style, and reduce the opacity to 60%. Select the two texts and add auto layout. Make sure the alignment is from the left. Then, select the icon and the text box and add auto layout. Set the gap between items to 8. Duplicate and replace the wireframe. We need a separator. Take the one in the status dashboard card. Add auto layout to the title and the timestamp. Then apply it to the current energy and the description. The spacing between them should be 8. Also, add the two text boxes at the bottom to an auto layout as well. And delete the rectangle we're going to fill with container 1 style. So what I did was create a fading gradient from the top. Then add stroke using outline 1. We're going to create a segmented control that lets users choose between multiple options. For the smart home, the options will be devices and rooms displayed in a horizontal row. Each segment functions as a button, and selecting one will deselect any others, clearly indicating the active option. This type of control is often used to switch views or filter content within the same context, without navigating away from the current page or screen. Copy the button in the thermostat and replace the rectangle. Then change the width size to 135. After changing the width, the rectangle inside the button doesn't adjust. You need to use constraints to fix this. With constraints, you pin the rectangle to a side of the frame, top, right, bottom, left, so it stays in place when the frame size changes. Constraints determine how elements within a frame behave when the frame's size changes. They help maintain the positioning and scaling of elements relative to their parent frame. Select the rectangle inside the button layout. Then go to its constraint settings and choose left, right, and top. Now, whenever you resize the button, whether changing its width or height, the blurred background will adjust accordingly, ensuring it always matches the button's size. The text is too long, so we'll change it to devices. Duplicate the button and change its text to rooms. Since it's the unselected button, remove the fill and background blur. Select the two buttons, add auto layout, set the gap between items to 10, and adjust the horizontal and vertical padding to 2. Fill the parent container with container 1, add outline 1 as the stroke, and set the corner radius to 50. Now we're going to create an add button for adding devices. You will need a plus icon and then copy the text from the segmented control and change it to add. Select both the text and the icon, then add auto layout. Resize the frame to 90x44 and set the alignment to center within the auto layout properties. We're going to fill with linear gradient using the color white. The first color stop reduce the opacity to 50% and set overlay. We're going to do the same thing with the stroke. Now let's create the device control card. First, we need icon. Take the thermostat from the asset page. Press on T and type thermostats using the body emphasized style in white color. Duplicate the text, change it to one device, apply the callout regular style, and reduce the opacity to 60%. Delete the shapes. We're going to create the toggle, which is a switch that allows to on or off with a single click or tap. Fill the circle with a gradient 1 color style. I use a linear gradient of 2 shades of blue placed diagonally. Then, add stroke using the outline button 1 color style. Select the other rectangle, which is the base of the toggle. Fill with container 1 style and add stroke using outline button 1. Press on T and type on in uppercase. Use the body emphasized text style with the color white. Name the layer, then add auto layout to both the text and the toggle. The text and the toggle must have their own container to keep them side by side. If we didn't and place all elements in one container in vertical layout, the toggle might end up below the text, which we want to avoid. We need a separator. Again, we're going to duplicate to avoid repeating the same process. Change the width size of the separator to 170. Select the two texts, add auto layout, and set the gap between them to 4. Now, select everything and apply auto layout, setting the gap between items to 16 and the horizontal and vertical padding to 20. Finally, adjust the width to 185. We're going to select the child containers, the toggle, and set to fill the parent container. It will expand to match the width of its parent frame. Then change the gap between to auto, which means the gap will adjust based on the available space. Now fill the layout with the Container 2 color style and add a stroke using Outline Container 2. Set the corner radius to 20. Then copy and replace the 3 other empty layouts. You can pause the video and change the icon and text to correspond with the device you wish to add, such as a Wi-Fi system, appliances, lighting, etc. Select the 4 containers and apply Auto Layout. In the Auto Layout settings, direction decides how items are lined up inside a container. You can choose vertical to stack them from top to bottom, horizontal to place items side by side, or wrap to let items fall into a new line or column when the space runs out. Let's set it to wrap and apply a 20 pixel gap both horizontally and vertically between items. Let's name the layers. Now let's move to the third screen. We're going to design the energy consumption tracker. In this layout, we'll have 3 sections. The first section will have the title and navigation, including an arrow icon for users to click on to see all the details of the energy consumption tracker. We also need to add a trophy icon. Ensure you include the arrow icon, positioning it where the circle is on the right. Place the trophy icon on the left, then select the arrow icon, apply auto layout, and adjust the frame size to 36 by 36. Remove the circle, then fill it with a black color and reduce the opacity to 50%. Round the corners to 50 to achieve a circular shape, and apply a stroke using the Outline Container 2 style. We're going to add title using the body emphasized. Type Energy Consumption Tracker with the color white. Select both the icon and the text, then add Auto Layout. We'll adjust the settings afterward. Now let's move on to the other rectangles. Press on T and type Monthly Energy Usage using the subheadline Regular. Make sure to select Auto Width. Duplicate the text and change the text to 165 kWh using the body emphasized. Then reduce the opacity 60%. Then add Auto Layout with spacing of 4. Copy and then paste to the other layout and change the contents. In the first part, I showed you how to use the ARC tool to create our progress ring, and now we're going to do the same. Hover over the circle and click and drag the dot. Set the ratio to 62% and 100% on the sweep value. Now let's duplicate the progress ring. We're going to change the sweep value to 50% and 80 degrees on the start. Then we're going to set the corner radius to 30. Fill with the gradient 1 color style. Add the percentage of the progress ring, such as 45%, using title 1 emphasized with white color. Group the 3 layers and name the group progress ring. Then select the 3 text boxes and apply auto layout, setting the gap between items to 16. Select both the progress ring group and the contents text box container. Then apply auto layout with a horizontal layout. Now, select both the new container and the title container, then apply auto layout. Adjust the width size to 390. Set the gap between items to 16 and apply 20 pixels for both horizontal and vertical padding. Select the child container, set its size to fill container, and adjust the gap between items to auto. Delete the shape, fill the container with container 1 color style, and add stroke using the outline 1 style. Then, set the corner radius to 20. The container spacing should be 20 pixels from both the main frame and the top navigation. Okay, I still see some padding in the text container. I forgot to resize the height to fill container and set the gap between items to auto. It lacks contrast on the progress ring base. I'll use a darker color. Heading down will create the statistic card. First, we need a title, so let's copy it into the other card at the top. We also need the accent button, copy it and replace it. Then change the width size to 350. Okay, now we're going to change the title and replace to statistics instead of tracker. Also, we don't need a navigation here because we have already the button for the navigation. We need to change the setting for the spacing, set to 16 instead of auto. Make sure the alignment is from the left. For the two rectangles above the button, we'll use text to indicate whether the user has conserved energy or not. We're going to change the text style to body regular instead and reduce the text color to 60%. Set the resizing to auto height to allow the text box's height to automatically adjust and fit its content, ensuring all text is visible without needing manual adjustments. Also, we can resize now or doing it after using the fill container. Let's focus on statistics. There are several types of statistics you can use, such as pie chart, line graph, histogram, progress bar, and many more. We're going to do a line graph. We're going to start with the y-axis for the vertical axis, representing kilowatt hour. Type 25 kilowatt hour using the caption regular style. Reduce the text color opacity to 60% and set the text width to auto. Duplicate it 3 times and change the values accordingly. In the meantime, we're going to put spacing at 20 between them and group them together. Duplicate the text for the x-axis on the horizontal axis, which represents months. We're going to put spacing at 20 between them. Now we'll create a frame to create our graph line. Press on F, create a frame of 276 by 130. Okay, let's add the months to a group and name it. To help us create our graph line, a little trick is to create lines. Press on L and create a line of 250 using the color white and reduce the opacity to 10%. Duplicate it 3 more times and align them with the baseline of the text. Press O. We will now create a dot of 4 by 4 for each month. Use the pen tool or press P. Click on your canvas to create the first anchor point of your wave. Move the cursor to where you want the first curve of your wave to peak or trough and click again, but don't release the mouse button immediately. Instead, drag to create a curve. You'll see 2 handles appear which control the curvature of the segment. Continue this process, clicking and dragging to create new points and curves. This technique takes a little practice. You can adjust the curves until you get the wave shape that you want. Now I'll show you an easier technique if you're finding it difficult to master curves. Use the pen to create a zigzag, then use the bend tool to adjust the curves. To make things even easier, use the Get Wave plugin. Open the plugin, just set your wave and create. So choose the way that suits you best to create your wave. Once you've completed it, we'll fill it with color. Select linear and use light blue to create a gradient that fades from the bottom. I'm still not satisfied with my wave, so I'm going to play with the curves again. Once finished, duplicate the wave, add a stroke using the same blue color. Now, let's add auto layout by creating the child container first. Select the y-axis and the wave, then add auto layout. Next, select the new container and the x-axis and add auto layout to them as well. Place the alignment for the right. Then set the spacing to 23. We need an action button. Let's copy from the home page and change the text to month and an arrow down for the icon. Select the button and the container, then group them in another layout. Set the alignment to the right and remove the shape. Set 20 on the gap between item and 10 on the horizontal and vertical padding. Fill with container 2. Then round the corner to 20. Finally, we're going to add stroke using outline container 2. We're nearing the end, so let's place all the elements in a single layout with the alignment on the left. Set the gap between items to 20. Select the child container and resize the frame to fill container. Apply the container 1 style fill, then set the horizontal and vertical padding to 20. Adjust the corner radius to 30 and add a stroke using the outline button 1. You can find my tab bar in my asset page. I challenge you to reproduce it without my help using the techniques you've learned today. You may also add a background to make your design more interesting. So we finished. I hope you enjoyed the course and learned some new techniques. Don't forget to tag me. I want to see your progress. Thanks and see you next design episode. Bye guys!